a demo. Can you talk about how folks might be able to see Coverity work in their environment?
Sure. So I'll talk about it from the Coverity perspective, and maybe Gordon, you can outline, your experience with the demo and what it was like. Basically, what we do is, if you're interested in seeing our results on your code base, we're happy to send one of our very technically able sales engineers, and in fact, when I say very technically able, most of them were developers at one point, and so they understand code, they can read code, they can dig through the results with you on your code base, and they'll set up the tool, they'll get it all running on your code. Some defects will pop out, and hopefully, for your sake, they wouldn't find anything. But in almost all cases, in fact, like I say, we've never done a trial where we didn't find any bugs. Some defects will pop out, and we'll sit down with you and go over those results, talk to you about the different types of defects that it finds in your code base, and then leave you with a sampling of the bugs that it found over your code base to, continue to dig into to verify that there really are the issues that are plaguing your developers. So maybe, Gordon, if you want to speak a little bit about your specific trial experience and how it went.
Essentially, as you described, and I think the eye-opener that we heard it's being used by one of our suppliers of software that we integrate into our product. We thought, okay, there might be something here. So we looked at it a little bit further, took advantage of the offer for the engineer to come in and do a run of the tool on our software, which was a production load, which we thought was pretty good. And we were surprised to see some of the issues that were identified, and could see under certain circumstances how some of the issues identified could cause, for want of a better word, squirrel behavior in the real world. Those are the problems that you find that a customer reports some I wouldn't say random crash, but some problem on an exceptional basis, and it happens once or twice, or perhaps either more rarely in a week or a month even. And it's those types of problems that just drive you insane as a development manager, because they distract you so much from creating value-adding code versus trying to debug random, I would say random, but difficult or weird problems in the field that happen under rarefied circumstances.
That's a good tagline. I was just going to say that's a good tagline. We help you find the defects that drive your developers and development managers insane.
Okay, great. So the next question is for Ben, and it's a question regarding specific standards. So within our technology organization, there's pressure to implement verifiable processes for software quality control. Ben, do you want to address that in regards to what Coverity can do?
Sure. So we actually split up our product offering into two pieces. There's Prevent, which is the out-of-the-box checking that we perform based on the checks that we have and our experience and our customer input. And then there's also a piece called Extend, which allows the end user, the customer, to write rules that they want to enforce on their code base. Rules that might be specific to their code base or specific to their company, and enforce those rules over the whole code base, similar to how the prepackaged checks are implemented. So we provide that for exactly this purpose, is when people have additional rules or additional process that they want to enforce from a style standpoint or a defect type standpoint, Extend is there to help them use the same analysis engine that we have for our checks to analyze the code for even more things. And we've seen customers write the simplest of checks all the way through very complicated things that they'll hit in the QA lab and map back to source code and decide that this should be something that's checked over the whole code base. So that's what we provide to our customers in that regard.
Okay, we have a couple more questions here rolling in. Let me see if I can read through them quickly. So, Ben, another one for you. Can you describe some examples of how Coverity can tune its product once installed to further lower the false positive rate?
Sure. So the number one cause of false positives in any source code analysis tool is a faulty assumption. If the analysis at any step of the way decides something is true that isn't, then it's going to lead to a false positive. And this is usually the biggest indicator of how much analysis sophistication is going on, is how many false positives. The more false positives, the less sophisticated the tool. But one place that tends to trip up most tools has to do with functions that never return. And this is just one example, but an important one, because if a function doesn't return, then the analysis needs to know that when it's analyzing a path and hits that function. We allow you to configure the analysis on a lot of different arenas, and one of those is these particular types of kill path functions. Other ways you can configure the tool are to indicate memory allocation and freeing functions, or you can tell it which functions in your code base, if you don't necessarily have the source code, you can indicate the behavior of those functions with the configuration. And what this allows you to do is when you see a false positive in the code, if you can identify the faulty assumption that the analysis is making through a function call, for example, then you can model that function in the analysis by providing a stub implementation of the function. And that way, you can inform the analysis that you know more about the function than it does, and it should trust what you say about it and use the configuration to eliminate those false positives. So I know we're coming up close to the hour, so I want to make sure we end on time for everybody out there who has the next meeting to get to. So do we have maybe one more question, Kathleen, before we wrap up?
See here. Quickly, there was a question regarding Eris's use of Coverity. Gordon, do you want to wrap up with any recommendations or last parting comments?
I think the key recommendation I have is the best way to get this tool bought into by the engineers is to make sure that they do see the value of it from their perspective. And once that's taken care of, it just gets sucked in by the engineers, because they find that it does actually help them in getting their job done. And so you view it as a tool that allows them to get their job done versus something else that's being imposed upon them.
Great. Well, Gordon, thank you so much for your participation with us today. I really appreciate it. And obviously your experience with Coverity is a great story to tell. I hope you've encouraged our listeners to take a look at Coverity, to go to our website, download some of our white papers, read about the technology yourself, and then give it a try. Give us a call, see what we can find in your code, and we love it when you doubt that it can find anything, because we want to come in and show you that it can provide real value and help making your code better. Thanks so much for attending, everyone, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes